Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. I'm your host, Mohammed Saleh. China's President Xi Jinping this week has asked the People's Liberation Army to focus all of its energy in preparation of a war. But Xi Jinping has made similar such statements in the past as well. In 2013 and also in 2017, immediately after securing power in Beijing. But the rhetoric this time round is much more strident. And what has troubled the military strategists in the West is the fact that China's military mobilization in East Asia will overmatch that of the United States by as early as 2024. At what point will Beijing decide to pull the trigger to reunite Taiwan is difficult to predict. But the military arsenal to accomplish such a feat has been steadily and meticulously built up using its growing financial muscle and technological prowess. At the recently held Zhuhai Air Show, China flaunted its fifth-generation J-20 fighter jets that so far have largely remained shrouded in secrecy. Nicknamed the Mighty Dragon, the Chengdu J-20 fighters are a twin-jet all-weather fighter aircraft that are designed for air superiority missions with precision strike capabilities. There is no universal definition that is agreed upon for a fifth-generation fighter jet. But typically, a fifth-generation fighter must include stealth capabilities, low probability of intercept radar, agile airframes, supercruise performance, advanced avionics, and the C3 capabilities of command, control, and communications. At this moment, only 3 countries in the world can boast of having fifth-generation fighter jets: the United States with its F-22 Raptors and the F-35 fighters, China with its J-20 aircraft, and the most recent entrant, Russia with its Sukhoi Su-57 fighter jets, which entered into service with Russian Air Force on the 25th of December in 2020. So how do these fifth-generation fighter jets compare against each other in a head-to-head contest? So let's start this comparison by looking at the J-20 spec sheet. With a wing area of about 73 square meters, the J-20 fighter jet has a maximum takeoff weight of 37,000 kilograms. The J-20 can also hit a maximum speed of Mach 2. It has a maximum range of 5,500 kilometers with 2 external fuel tanks. The fighter has a maximum weapons carrying capacity of about 11,000 kilograms. A whole host of different missiles can be deployed, including several types of air-to-air missiles of varying ranges. The J-20 is also interestingly equipped with what are known as anti-radiation missiles, through which the fighter jet can detect and destroy enemy radars, jammers, and radio devices. A single J-20 fighter jet is estimated to cost about $120 million. Many military analysts say that the J-20 borrows heavily from the F-22 Raptor, but a closer inspection shows that the J-20 may have both Russian and American DNA. But perhaps the weakest point about the J-20 fighter jet is that it has not been tested in combat yet. The most recent entrant into this elite club of fifth-generation fighter jets is the recently inducted Russian Sukhoi Su-57. This multi-role fighter is capable of aerial combat as well as ground and maritime strikes. Now, the Su-57 incorporates stealth capability, super maneuverability, integrated avionics, and also substantial internal payload capacity. The spec sheet of the Su-57 is pretty impressive as well. It has a wing area of about 78.8 square meters, a maximum takeoff weight of 35,000 kilograms. The Su-57 can hit a max speed of Mach 2 and has a maximum range of about 4,500 kilometers with 2 outboard fuel tanks. But it is the variety of weapons that it can carry and fire that makes the Su-57 outshine the J-20. The Su-57 has 12 hard points in which it can carry air-to-air, air-to-surface, anti-ship and anti-radiation missiles. The United States is the original pioneer of fifth-generation fighter jets. For our comparison, it is important to look at the F-35 fighter jet, which is a stealth capability multi-role combat aircraft that performs both air superiority and strike missions. Developed by Lockheed Martin, the F-35 is also capable of electronic warfare, intelligence gathering, surveillance and reconnaissance. What is interesting is that the F-35 was first used in combat by the Israelis over Beirut in Lebanon in 2018. And pretty much most NATO allies, besides other close allies of the United States, such as even South Korea, Switzerland and Singapore, have placed orders to acquire the F-35 fighter jets. The spec sheet of F-35 fighter jets is as impressive as it gets. The fighter has a wing area of about 43 square meters. The F-35 has a maximum takeoff weight of about 31,750 kilograms. It can reach a top speed of about 1.6 Mach, besides having a range of about 2,800 kilometers. But it is in the ammunition that it can carry that the F-35 outshines its competitors. The F-35 has 4 internal stations and 6 external stations on wings to carry a whole host of air-to-air, air-to-surface and anti-ship missiles. The fighter is also fitted with some of the best avionics on a combat aircraft. Each F-35 fighter jet is estimated to cost about $78 million. And what is more, the United States insists that the F-35 is combat tested. Having the best weapons in the world creates a sort of deterrence. But every competitor developing the most dangerous types of weapons is the definition of an arms race. So it is for you to decide. Do these top-notch fighter jets, drones and deadly missiles, have they made the world a safer place? Or have they taken us one step closer to an impending doom? In the bruising war that has now dragged on for almost about 9 months, Ukraine has managed to recapture Kherson after Russia announced a retreat from the region. Military analysts say that this is the biggest loss that Russia has suffered since it started its invasion. But there are others who are dubbing this retreat as strategic on the part of the Russians. But what really is the truth? And what will be the ramifications of the recapture of Kherson on the Crimean Peninsula? Our next report gets you more details.
There were scenes of jubilation on the streets of Kiev. This has been dubbed as the biggest retreat by the Russians in the war so far. An estimated 40,000 Russian troops have withdrawn to the east of the Dnipro River. Oksana, who had to flee from Kherson when the Russians rolled in their tanks into her hometown, could not hold back her tears.
We are just happy. We thank our armed forces of Ukraine. We thank everyone. We thank that we are Ukrainians. We thank that we all are together. Thankful to God, thankful for everything. We have waited 260 days for this day.
Ukraine claims this Russian retreat from Kherson is actually a rout, with the Russian troops ditching their uniforms and leaving behind a huge cache of weapons. But Russia has a different story to tell. It has described its pullback as strategic, to establish better supply lines, to defend and to put pressure on the Ukrainian forces through some massive artillery shelling from across the Dnipro River. On the battlefront, the situation is still very grim. Satellite images have shown new damage to the Novokakhovka Dam, where some sections of the dam and the sluice gates appear to have been deliberately destroyed. In the Russia-occupied Luhansk province, a burial ceremony was held for the pro-Russian soldiers killed on the battlefield.
Today we buried the remains of 38 of our soldiers, servicemen of the Luhansk People's Republic militia, who died in various battles on different battlefields on the borders of our motherland. Their names are unknown, and our duty is to identify the names of everyone here. There are several steps that have been undertaken by law enforcement agencies, forensic examinations and social services. We are searching for, gathering information, returning dead bodies from Ukrainian territory.
These are the people who are forgotten in the headlines. Through incessant drone and missile attacks, Russia has been successful in knocking out almost 40% of Ukraine's energy infrastructure. To counter the Russian missile and drone offensive, the United States is arming Ukraine with 8 batteries of NASAM's anti-air defense systems. The coming winter will be cold and bitter. The reconquest of Kherson is a shot in the arm for Kiev, but the endgame of this war has not been decided yet.
Away from the glare of the global cameras, a low-intensity civil war that has been dubbed Myanmar Spring Revolution is presently underway. And so far, in the last 20 months of fighting, an estimated 27,000 people are said to have lost their lives. On the 24th of October, the Myanmar junta carried out an airstrike on a celebratory event of the Kachin Independence Army, which was marking its 62nd anniversary since it began its insurgency for autonomy. Over 60 people were killed and more than 70 others are reported to have been injured. This scene of devastation will give you a glimpse of what must have unfolded that fateful night, as two military jets swooped down on a crowd of about 500 people and trained their machine guns on them. Those who were killed included members of the Kachin Independence Army's top brass, besides musicians and jade mining honchos. But most of those who ended up losing their lives are said to have been common civilians. Human rights activists have slammed the military junta for its disproportionate use of force.
Not only is it disproportionate, indiscriminate, but it targeted civilians. And this is something that, we will really, really press upon to those countries who are hesitating to act on doing anything on Myanmar, because we're seeing more and more civilians killed. And really, how many more do we need to see killed before they will act to hold this military accountable?
But this incident of the 24th of October is not a one-off case. On the 20th of September, the junta in a helicopter attack on a school killed 11 young children, terming the village primary school as a rebel hideout. Ever since the military junta deposed the controversial civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi in February 2021 and General Min Aung Hlaing took charge, the military junta has unleashed a wave of repression targeting all forms of dissent. The Myanmarese military, that is also known as Tamadov, faces widespread and fierce opposition from ethnic armed militias that it has been fighting against even before the February 2021 coup. By late March in 2021, protesters began to arm themselves with homemade weapons. There are reports of regular skirmishes with soldiers, besides repeated IED attacks on administrative buildings and police stations that has become a part of resistance strategy. You must hear it from one of the insurgent fighters about the tactics that have been employed against the military junta.
We used to rely on mines to attack the military. We used to attack convoys by planting mines on the road and shoot at them with our homemade guns. But now, we're using heavy weapons like 40mm and 60mm mortars and rockets. We are satisfied with what we've been able to achieve.
There are an estimated 20 ethnic armed rebel militias in Myanmar. The most prominent among them are the United Var State Army, the Karen National Union, the Kachin Independence Army, the Arakan Army, the Taeyang National Liberation Army, and the Myanmar Nationalities Democratic Alliance. Between them, these ethnic armed groups control nearly about a third of the territory in Myanmar, often fighting for autonomy and to protect the rights of their ethnic groups in the complex mosaic of Myanmar's troubled political landscape. Almost two-thirds of Myanmar's ethnic population is composed of the ethnic Burmans, also known as Bamars. As the overwhelming majority, the ethnic Burmans enjoy the top government and military positions. But the ethnic minorities in Myanmar have had their rights severely curtailed right from the time of Myanmar's independence. The Shan ethnic minority make up nearly about 9% of the population. The Karen are 7% of the population. The Kachin are estimated to be about 4% of the population, while the Chinese and the Indians make up 3 and 2% of the population respectively. From the moment Myanmar, that was earlier known as Burma, gained its independence from the British, these ethnic minorities have been subjected to state discrimination. The Rohingya, an ethnic minority in the Rakhine province, have had their citizenship rights stripped away and been subjected to a genocide. The military junta has resorted to using scorched earth tactics, where entire villages have been burnt down to ethnically cleanse the minorities from an area. The ASEAN nations, who've been badly impacted by the constant influx of refugees due to the violence and upheavals in Myanmar, want a time-bound peace plan for the crisis-hit nation. But going by the track record of how the military junta has ruled the country in the past, it looks unlikely that Myanmar will transition to a democratic form of government anytime soon. There is trouble brewing in Central Africa, and in the latest incident, the Democratic Republic of Congo has resorted to bombing rebel targets along its eastern border. This has been in response to the increased activities of the M23 rebels. In order to bolster the army, the President Felix Tshisekedi has called young people to enlist. The M23 rebels are alleged to be backed by neighboring Rwanda, a charge that Kigali has refuted. Nonetheless, Kinshasa has expelled the Rwandan ambassador. And our next story gets you the details of this rapidly escalating situation in eastern Congo.
Hundreds of Congolese youths are volunteering to join their national army to fight against the M23 rebels. In Goma alone, the capital of northern Kivu province, as many as 3,000 young men and women have signed up to be drafted for frontline deployment. Aged between 18 and 30 years, they hope to get trained at the military academy and defend their country. In an address that was broadcast on national television, President Felix Tshisekedi accused Rwanda of harboring expansionist ambitions. Additionally, he has also accused the M23 rebels in Congo's east of operating with the support of Rwanda. A mostly Congolese Tutsi group, the M23 first shot to prominence in 2012 when they captured Goma. A peace deal was struck in 2013, wherein many M23 rebels were integrated into the national military. After lying dormant for years, the M23 fighters resumed fighting in late 2021. Curiously, a major grievance is that the Democratic Republic of Congo failed to honor a pledge to integrate the M23 fighters into the national army. In late October this year, M23 launched a major offensive, breaking a lull of several weeks by capturing a series of settlements along an important highway to Goma. In a recent development, the Kenyan president has lent his weight behind Congo by officially deploying troops to eastern DRC. The Kenyan troops, joined by a contingent from Burundi, are part of an East African regional force which aims to end decades of bloodshed in the Democratic Republic of Congo. DRC is a new entrant to the bloc of the East African Community of 7 nations, which agreed in April this year to fight the militia groups in eastern Congo. Even though billions of dollars have been spent on one of the United Nations' largest peacekeeping forces, but the 120-odd armed groups, M23 being one among them, still continue to pose a serious security challenge across large parts of Congo's east.
The Andean nation of Peru is in the grip of turmoil. Thousands of demonstrators marched through downtown Lima, demanding that President Pedro Castillo should resign. For his part, Castillo says that he's actually a victim. In his words, he is a victim of false accusations and unimaginable calumnies. But what really is the truth? Our next report gets you more details.
There was pandemonium on the streets of Lima. Anti-government protesters clashed with the police on the 6th of November. The protesters, who numbered in thousands, marched through the streets of the Peruvian capital. They carried with them the vertically striped red and white national flag and chanted anti-government slogans. Their demand is simple. They want their sitting president, Pedro Castillo, to step down immediately. The police, wearing anti-riot gear, complete with helmets and toughened fiber shields, lobbed several tear gas canisters in an attempt to disperse the crowds. The mounted police units who were blocking the way to the presidential palace clashed with the protesters in a bid to prevent them from reaching the presidential house.
Today we are marching because we are fed up with having a criminal in the government palace, a thief and his whole family who are a criminal gang. I say this without fear because I am a Peruvian and I am going to march even if I have to give my life.
Castillo is a former rural schoolteacher who unexpectedly rose to power in elections last year. Replacing the traditional political elite, he has been under fire throughout his tenure. He is the survivor of 2 impeachment proceedings since taking office in July 2021. In addition to this, he is currently the target of 6 criminal investigations for alleged graft and plagiarizing his university thesis. Things had come to a boil last month when the Peruvian Attorney General filed a complaint accusing Castillo of heading a criminal organization involving his family and allies. Pedro Castillo has vehemently rejected the allegations that his family has committed any crimes. Castillo insists that he is a victim of a vicious campaign to remove him from power. Portraying himself as the savior of the poor, Castillo has struck a defiant tone till now. President Castillo is currently serving a 5-year term that will come to an end only in 2026. As per the law of the land, the head of state cannot be criminally tried while in office. But the increasing clamor and the violent protests for his removal are not going to be easy to ignore.
Thanks for watching World at War. And if you want to reach out to me with any comments, suggestions or feedback, please feel free to tweet to me on the Twitter handle that you see on your screens. I'm your host Mohammed Saleh, and I'll see you again next week.